How about we start with some introductions and just kind of put on the comments where you're at with your bookkeeping? Like, do you have bookkeeping? How do you do it? Like, is it a spreadsheet, a software? And like, what is your main concern? Hey, Neil. Hey, Attila. I don't think I've ever met you, Franz or Brental.
Was the question what we're currently doing bookkeeping wise?
Yes.
We use Stessa, but have had troubles. We currently bank out of a credit union, and so it's had trouble doing like stuff automatically in terms of like uploading the transactions and stuff. So I've looked at doing base lane instead. So not sure if anybody does base lane or yeah.
Yeah, I started doing baseline for my like smaller entities, the ones that don't have a lot of complicated stuff. And I love it so far. I have 10 Baseline bank accounts right now. Joy was actually the one that got me started with Baseline. And then I was like, oh, I don't know about it. And then when I restructure everything, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can work with this. And so far, I really like it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna switch.
Area Hub. I've heard about that one. Do you like it, friends?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I tried Stessa as well, and I really liked that. So I was in a bind whether to use Stessa or REI Hub, but I liked REI Hub because of the reportings that it provides. So it's good so far.
Yeah, I've looked at some of the reports and they seem decent. Attila, you said you're winging it. You're winging it how? What you using? And
One account, he said one account, one card per property. It's still hard to analyze. Hey, that's better than a lot of people I see. They
yeah,
don't even, they're using their personal account and you have to dig through all the personal transactions to get stuff. So
Monica. I don't even think I know what bookkeeping is. That's good because we're gonna talk about it. So you're in the right place. All right. And then Joy. Joy, I know what you've been doing. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about reports and analyzing reports. Like I think what you want to guys want to start thinking about is like, why do you think your bookkeeping sucks specifically? Non-existent is one of the reasons, right? But um, I think what is it that you're lacking the most to get out of bookkeeping? I think the reason why people hate bookkeeping is because they don't understand bookkeeping. And so if once you understand what bookkeeping can do for you, that is when it becomes a little fun, right? So it's the same thing. Like if you guys, people are like, "Oh, I'm not good with numbers," but I see you guys learn how to analyze deals. So like, um,
that's a good one.
you, yeah, like you become so good at analyzing deals because you realize what it does to you, what it can do for you. So the same thing with bookkeeping. Yes, it's more tedious, but eventually, as you scale, you can outsource all of that.
Absolutely. Numbers can be such a powerful tool, and Atomic Habits is absolutely one of my favorite books. I read it at least once a year, and I apply it to every single piece of my life, from getting my 6-year-old to do something, to working out, to studying something new. And to relate it to bookkeeping, um, if you're unfamiliar with it, of course it's going to be, just something you don't want to dive into. So I always recommend like start with like 2 minutes a day. Just do, or not even 2 minutes a day, you can do 2 minutes a week. Just start with something, just log in. You don't have to do anything, just log in and see it and see where that takes you.
All right, so I think we have a good number of people, so we're gonna get started with kind of just introductions. Let me share my screen real quick. Ah, I forgot how to use, I haven't done presentations in a while. I forgot how to do this. Um,
Getting back to it. Anyone can feel free to be on camera, even if you're driving or, running errands or, getting the kids cereal this morning. We'd love to see your face.
all right.
Get to know everyone.
All right. So I can't see the screen. I can't see you guys, but okay. We're gonna start with Sarah. So I'm really excited that I don't even know how I met you, Sarah. Probably Instagram, right?
Yeah, I think it was just Instagram, natural kind of over time.
Which is how I've met most of you anyways. But yeah, so she is a CPA like myself. She's an investor like myself. So we have a lot in common. And we actually did like a podcast interview together and we kind of clicked pretty well because we believe on the same thing. So that's how we ended up partnering for this webinar series. So Sarah, let's go ahead and talk about all the good stuff you got.
Yeah. So I bought my first rental property at 41 years old, and I want to start with that because a lot of people think they're too late or they can't do it and everything. And guys, our 401ks were fat, and I was like, we can't invest in real estate. We're not rich. And I worked for a developer that owned over 1,000 rentals and was building most of them himself. So I was blinded by that, thinking that was the only path to own real estate because his numbers were amazing. And I'm like, there's no sense in messing with the other stuff when I can't go straight into this mindset. All the way it was mindset. And finally I was like, I don't need that. I just need a little bit. And so we dove in head first, and we are um, we are 6 deals in, have about seven. Well, we've sold 2 units, so we're at 5 units right now that we're currently managing, looking to get more, and we bought a laundromat this year, trying to branch out into that as well. Um, I have a goal to complete one pull up by next year. I as CFO, I scaled a development and construction company from 8 million to $80 million in 8 years, which was no small feat using systems and processes, which a lot of real estate investors need. And one day I looked at my boss and I was like, this isn't fun anymore. The scaling part, the getting there, getting it all set up and working with him in the early days is what drove me. And I was like, I want to do this for more real estate investors. And he said, I think that's an amazing idea, and I think you're going to do great at it. He tried to keep me to keep on, and I wouldn't, and so I did this. But anyways, here we are now. I'm doing this. So
That's funny because I didn't actually know that part of the story. So I actually started investing in real estate because I started working for a property management like an owner, like an investor. They were a rich family from Argentina. And so they had buildings all over, and I was like, you know what? There's no way I could ever invest in real estate because I would have to be super wealthy and rich to be able to do that. And it took me years to figure out like, well, I don't have to start with a 500, building. Like I can start with a house. And how do I do that? So that is kind of how I started working property management through college. The reason why I got into property management is because people told me that property management was a way to make good income, and it was actually a way to, because I actually made way more than the minimum wage by working in property management. So that's really my drive. I had zero interest on investing in real estate before that, but then I started seeing like what it could do, and I was like, this seems fascinating. So I actually thought that I still needed to make a lot of money to get started in real estate. So I came up with a 5-year plan on how I was going to become a CFO of a company, and I was going to make 500,000 to $1 million a year, and that was like my goal, right? And as I started going through the path, I started getting burnt out. Like I hated corporate. I really wanted to go back into property management and get back into real estate and kind of get to learn more. So I became obsessed with podcasts, all those things. And you guys kind of know the end of the story. Most of you know that I am currently living in Cali, Colombia. I retired my husband this August. I retired myself about 3 years ago with real estate investing. I went all in. My main thing is long-term rentals in the affordable housing space. Yeah, so that's kind of where I was. I started in 2019, so I've been doing this for 6 years. But even though I'm no longer doing accounting actively, I'm still a numbers nerd. Like you could see me in spreadsheets every single day, looking at our numbers and stuff like that. And I love talking about it because knowing my numbers is really what helped me retire myself and my husband in 6 years. So that's why I really talk about it. And I wanted to kind of bring this webinar over to you guys. So that being said, why do you guys think your bookkeeping sucks? Give me a few people. Neil, I'll pick on you. Neil, Monica.
The number one thing when I meet people in
Sorry,
person,
I stepped away. Sorry. What were you saying?
So why do you think your bookkeeping sucks?
Um, trying to more right now because I self-manage and my job right now is a full-time stay-at-home dad. So like the trick is just trying to automate and do as little work as possible. And so right now, because we've had like the connection issues with like the bank and stuff, it's just I'm having to kind of individually do everything. And it's just a time suck. So that's why I would say right now we need, and the second thing is we're working with a real estate attorney now to get all the properties into LLCs and getting all that part of things cleaned up. So I need to learn how I'm supposed to do bookkeeping now that everything's like in separate LLCs and all that stuff.
I'm gonna tell you it's not gonna be fun, um, but it's worth it. I see somebody saying not regularly, discipline, not consistent, no motivation to do it. Those are three very similar answers. And then I like to say I have simple records, but I don't have a feel of what's happening and tracking. That's a good one. Monica.
I was gonna say again, like I mentioned, I was like, I don't really know what bookkeeping is. Like, I have my own long-term rentals, and I felt like having a spreadsheet of like expenses and the income like towards the end of the year was fine. But then my brother passed away, and we're in probate, and there's a whole estate that we're managing these properties, and then there's like short-term rentals, long-term rentals, driveways, and it like the complexity of it just went to like a whole other level. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. So I'm just like, so now I'm looking for someone to like outsource that, but then I don't even know how to like vet because I just don't even know bookkeeping. So my mind's all over the place and I'm not detailed oriented.
Okay, we're gonna touch on those points that you mentioned actually. So I'm not gonna skip forward, but yeah, so overwhelmed. So I think bookkeeping has been projected to be overwhelming, and I think it's because of the lack of knowledge of like really what you can do, like how you can simplify it. So definitely I see that a lot. And I think all the comments that you guys mentioned are what we see normally people answer. Like you don't know how to categorize transactions, you don't have the proper tools, which is what Neil said, not consistent, non-existent, only done at tax time. And I think that having this all go back to having systems and processes like Sarah mentioned. So Sarah, what are some things usually that you see with your clients?
Neil
That
touched on one of those that I've been seeing big time recently, and that's logging into the bank account. The connections get lost. It's a hindrance. It's going to stop the flow of you just getting in there and doing what you need to do. And I see that a lot. And there's um There's some ways that can help with that too, but I think the biggest thing goes back to Atomic Habits and just logging in once a week. It takes, 30 seconds just to log in, keep your logins fresh, keep everything fresh. And so when you log in once a month, you don't have like 30 different things saying, "Oh, not connected, not this, da 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 da." And it keeps it more active. I know we're getting into other stuff later, but I think I feel like this summer and the conferences I've been to, that's been a big glaring, like, I hate having to remember all of these two-factor authentications and all that. So
Yeah.
that's been a big one.
Well, we have technology now to help you with all that stuff, right?
Yeah. And it is very helpful, but also it can be even a big hindrance because then you've got to remember it's one more piece of software that you have to remember and all that. But I think it's getting better though. They're doing
I
good with
can't
it.
live without LastPass. LastPass is my life. So
LastPass and I think it's one pass or something. There's another one that's been getting a lot of traction that my clients have been sharing with me.
yeah, so I'll say that, is bookkeeping fun? No. As an accountant myself, I actually don't do my own bookkeeping. Um, because like eventually it gets a lot. It becomes a lot. And as a investor, at the end of the day, like we're CEOs of our business, right? And so at the end of the day, what we want to be able to eventually do is step back and look at our books in a different view. Um, and so at the beginning, it feels even more because you're doing both things, right? You're doing the categorizing and then you're also reviewing. And so you gotta kind of have, there's two hats there. There is the CEO hat, the CFO, like the CEO hat, the one that reviews everything, and then there is the bookkeeping hat. And so you gotta separate those and seeing them as two different things. That's, in my opinion, that's how I see it. What do you think, Sarah?
100%. And I will be first to say, like, I've when 20 years ago when I first stepped in an accounting office for it was for an oil and gas company actually, but it was doing data entry and bookkeeping for them while I was still in college. And I was just like, this is amazing. This is so much fun figuring out where these numbers go and all this other stuff. And then as I, kind of grew in my career and gotten bigger, it's like that doesn't bring me joy anymore. It's looking at the reports at a high level and making big decisions. So like when I was young and fresh, yeah, the bookkeeping and the putting the numbers in there was exciting. Growing my bookkeeping company, I can see it in the younger people that I hire. They're like, "Oh, this is fun," and da 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 da. But I know that fire is going to burn out in a few years, and I'm going to have to like keep it fresh for them and everything. But I think it goes on to, business owners, real estate investment portfolio owners, and everything. And I also relate it to like working out or, doing anything else in your life. It's the consistency and over time that you finally start seeing the reports and understanding the reports better. That's when you actually see how far it's taken you and what amazing things it can do for you.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you guys another question. Because we want to make this interactive. It's not just Sarah and I talking nonstop. So for those of you that have bookkeeping, do you guys have like just tell me exactly what do you think bookkeeping really is? Like what do you think the definition of bookkeeping is? Like what does it make? What is it supposed to do? Rob, I'm gonna pick on you.
Yeah, to me, it's allocation and categorization of expenses and revenue so that you have a better, well, more instant reporting when needed, uh, for taxes or management controls or investment decisions.
Okay, I like that answer.
Neil.
You want to say that's a good one too. Anybody else? Let's see who else we got on the
For
list.
me, for me, it's bookkeeping is make sure you're tracking the health of the property. Um, making sure that you look at line items. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and it snows a lot. So one of the categories that I view, and I'm always constantly viewing, is snow removal. And so that's one of the things where if you don't know how much that expense is per month during the winter months, if you don't know if that property is profitable.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
I read Profit First recently and was really convicted that basically one of the points is until I started really keeping track of my books, I didn't realize how much money I was either making or not making. So I think for us, it was a little bit of a gut check and looking in the mirror to see, because I'll do the math in my head about, how I think the rentals are going. But then whenever I put the numbers on paper, it's, you know, it's kind of like whenever you weigh yourself and you're like, okay, this is what the numbers are actually saying in terms of how healthy of a body I'm cultivating. So
Neil,
and
that
I
that
almost
mental
didn't want to do bookkeeping because I didn't want to know in some ways, but anyway.
Neil, that mental math it probably causes the most conflict between me and my newer clients when we first start and we catch up and everything. They're like, "No, I made $100,000 on that flip," and they forget the holding costs. They forget that they, paid points for the mortgage and or to the hard money lender, and just those little things that add up. And yeah, you paid a general contractor, but it was just for labor. You needed to add the supplies, and they could see their Lowe's bill, but they forgot about all the small trips to the local hardware store and stuff like that. So that mental math is really like it can get discouraging. You're right.
I
Yeah,
think I'll also look at it and be like, man, oh, well, if it wasn't for this expense, then it would actually be here. And then what I've realized is every single month there's like oh, well, if we didn't have this, then it would be this. And now I just now mentally know that there's always going to be kind of something that comes up each month. So to temper my expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joy was saying that her goal was to use bookkeeping to help decision making with what's next in a real estate business, which is a really good answer. Yeah, so bookkeeping is actually a branch of accounting. Like accounting is kind of it's really what we're doing. Where accounting is bookkeeping. And so I think a lot of the bookkeeping is like the little detail recording. And I think it's the concept that a lot of people learn about in the smaller scale. But really what you're doing is accounting, right? And so this is the basic definition: recording and categorization of business transactions. But there's a lot more to it. So Sarah, what does bookkeeping really entail?
So a lot, and I think this is this can go so many different ways, and it can branch out and be very complicated. So I'm going to try to simplify it as best as I can. People think, oh, I'm going to sit down and record and categorize my business transactions. It shouldn't take me very long, but there are so many things that go into that and it's another decision point for, like, you're making all these decisions in your business and everything, and you got to remember, oh, and the longer you go out, you got to remember 6 months ago what happened with this category and all this other stuff. And then you have to remember what class it goes into, which property it was for, and all that other stuff. So I like to think of bookkeeping to go back to the actual physical transaction that happens. That's when bookkeeping starts. That's when the biggest part of bookkeeping starts, is what you do with that receipt, and how you can set yourself up to have great books with that one receipt and getting those systems in place. So I see it all as a system, going through from when you get your receipt until you record that transaction. That's where it goes. And We could get into the whole chart of accounts and keeping it simple and simplified, especially at the very beginning of your business journey. And one thing that popped in my mind earlier, and I keep forgetting to ask it at a good time, so I'm just going to interject here. If you'd put in the comments how many properties or how many doors you have. So I can kind of get a gauge of your answers here of like how far advanced, of bookkeeping you might need compared to what your answers are here. Um, but that's kind of like what bookkeeping is to me. It's a whole system from the moment that transaction happens until you get it in your software, whether it be Baseline, Stessa, QBO, Wave, um, and generates those reports. And then that's kind of where you get into more of like the accounting piece and kind of gets different there. Y'all got some great portfolios here. Fantastic.
Sarah, what do you think is the point where bookkeeping becomes a little more complicated? Like what's that like that number of units that or properties per se? And
Um, that's kind of that's a tough question to answer because it depends on, what strategy you're using. If you were just doing long-term buy and hold single family, um, you people can get by really easily. I mean, probably up to 10, like they're doing good. And it's just because there's only like one or two transactions a month. And at the end of the year, that 123 Main Street is 975 a month and XYZ, Fifth Street is 1325 per month. And those amounts that are going to be there every month. And I can see long-term buy and hold up to 10, short-term rentals like two. Everybody's going crazy because there's so many transactions, there's so many cleaners and all this other stuff. It can get muddy rather quickly. Flips, and if you're buying either to flip or to fix and hold, that job costing in there, it gets muddy really quickly too, because you have 35 transactions to Home Depot and 45 transactions to Sherwin-Williams, and you don't know where they go. And it does matter for many different reasons. For if you want to fix and hold it, for your depreciation, you need to have those categorized correctly. Yeah, just that that those are kind of the thresholds, so it's kind of subjective there. But and then if you have any kind of business background and you've worked in like the business side of it, you can get by a little longer without having to hire it out and have somebody assist you.
yeah, I agree. I do too many things. That's why my bookkeeping became complicated with too early. Because I do buy holds, I do flips, I do long-term rental, short-term rental, mid-term rental, and now I'm doing past split. And so, which I do not recommend, but that's a topic for a real estate investing call. But it does become more complicated with the type of transaction you make. And flips and fix and like burrs, those require more attention because that's where you know whether you're gonna make or break it, right? So, what does bookkeeping really do for you? We kind of touched base on this, but like it really helps you understand your business, make better decisions, run your business more efficiently. But when I ask this to a lot of investors, they don't tell me this. They just kind of tell me like, oh, it just a lot of like I think 70% of the time somebody answers, well, it just gives me the numbers that I need for my tax return. or or they're like, it just tells me how much money I make at the end of the month, but there's so much more to it. And the bigger one for me is actually something people don't think about, like earn credibility with lenders. If you're somebody that's looking to do private lending and all that stuff, if you have messy books, how could you really like show credibility to some investors, like especially when you start borrowing like a lot more money. People want to know that you have good books and records that you're going to make sure that you know that you're going to make money on that deal. So that's one of the things, one of the items that a lot of people think. Sarah, on your client portfolio, what are some things that bookkeeping has helped your clients do, like horror stories that you've seen, how bookkeeping really helped you?
You touched on the earned credibility with lenders. I had a guy once, he had a $2 million line of credit, and he had it maxed, and the bank was so upset with him because he was producing terrible reports and he wasn't showing where his $2 million went. This was a really good business guy, but he was doing so many things at once and stretched so thin. And I helped him do a cleanup, and it took us like 3 or 4 months to like really pinpoint all this $2 million on this line of credit that he had gone through in the past 6 months. And it was all legitimate, but he was just going so fast, and the bank was like, no, 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 like, you need to give us quarterly reports, because he didn't realize when he signed on for the $2 million loan that he had to produce quarterly reports to the bank by then. And so it got really messy. And yeah, it took us, we were in it, and he and I had we had some really hard discussions and hard talks about it and everything. But he actually now is one of my most favorite clients, and we've got it straightened out, and we give quarterly reports to the bank, and he's getting even bigger deals now and going even farther. But it was his Achilles heel, that when the day he came to me, and he was like, he was sweating, like, they're like mad at me, all this stuff going on, and he didn't understand all of it that he had signed on for. And he started out with one house, and over 10 years kind of had grown his portfolio to like 75 houses, and he was trying to go into commercial real estate. And that's kind of when it all went haywire for him. But yeah, just I mean, I have had, we'll go back to when I managed or when I was CFO for the developer. He had over 1,000 uh rentals in his personal portfolio that I helped manage his property. He had a property management team that looked over that and everything. So I would look over their reports and sit in with them on their monthly accounting meeting and everything. And one month I was like, wait a minute. I was like, why is there no insurance in the past 13 months when we were looking at that? And when you have 1,000 rentals, your insurance is a very steep expense. And they were 2 days away from 1,000. It wasn't all 1,000 of them, but it was probably a good chunk, probably 400 or 500 of the rentals. Like the insurance bills were going to a different insurance or an email address. And had we not caught that, like, do you know how hard it is to get insurance on 400 rental units? Like, and even if you're in a smaller one and it's just two or three, and you miss that insurance payment, I've seen utility bills all the time. Like, we got a water leak, and they see it in their accounting reports, not because your tenants, and a lot of times your tenants don't even know. Like, yeah, the toilet's running all the time, it's annoying, but they're not going to call you up because they don't want you to see their messy house. And we look at the water bill, and whoa, why is it double? And it's because the toilet's running 24/7. And just things like that can help you. And as you grow, you become less, because you're like, oh, I'll always see that utility bill. But a lot of times, like, you start getting so much more busy, you're like, yeah, a $400 water bill would trigger you, but it may not trigger somebody you've hired to help you pay your bills. Or if you get put on, you're like, no, I'm just going to do auto pay for everything. And you get in those situations. The reports really matter and really save people a lot of money. I see it happen at least once a month. One of my clients, when we're digging into something, we see something that's saved them their fee to me, and it's paid off.
Yeah, I think that I love looking at reports on a 12-month basis, because that's really where I see the whole picture. Because that's where you see that water bill spike up, right? If you see it on a monthly basis, you might not remember what it looked like last month, or you're like, oh, it looks fine. And then when you really look at it, it's like, oh, wait, this is double. And also, like, the reports, having those reports and those access to that. Like, for example, Neil, he does pad split, right? So these houses generally require the same thing. So if he's buying a house in the same area, he could basically look at, let me look at the average expenses for the last 12 months for this past split, and then use those numbers to more accurately analyze deals when he's buying. Because a lot of times when we're new to a market, we kind of estimate. We estimate, the water and sewer. Well, we don't really know, right? Until we actually start running the numbers. And when you have bookkeeping and other properties that are similar in nature and all that stuff, you're able to use more real numbers and estimate. And then let's say you do buy the house and the house is having double the water bill, and you're like, why? Well, there must be something wrong with the plumbing, right? Because if the two houses are in the same city, right, the same water company, and one has double the water, there has to be something wrong with that house. It also helps you like manage your properties better. We found leaks like that, not knowing, because like, why is the electric bill so high? Well, maybe there was a shortage somewhere. But you have to be able to kind of look at things on a report to give you that decision making on whether you need to fix something in your house or not.
Yeah. Um, Neil was asking about if there's something, an automation that notifies you of if a utility bill is higher than average. And I just wanted to know, the ones I say are like when you actually have to pay the bill. If the tenant is responsible for the utilities, then yeah, you're kind of at the mercy of the utility service saying, "Hey, this is high," and triggering you on that. Um, but you know what? I don't know if there is. I need to look into that. I just took a screenshot of that to look into it later, and we can answer those questions.
Yeah, I don't know
Because
if y'all like just have a rhythm of, even if you've got a bookkeeper or you're doing everything automated, you're still looking at it on a monthly basis. So you're able to flag those expenses. I don't know of anything that would tell me like, hey, if an average water bill is $200 a month and this month it's 250, but if I'm reviewing them monthly, I'm looking at those things. So then I don't know if that's how I would catch it. So anyway.
you
Yeah,
could,
that's
with ChatGPT these days, you can upload your financials and it could analyze it for you too.
Oh,
Um,
okay, great.
and it could find like triggers. But there of course there's advanced software like big corporations use to kind of do those things. There's also fancy spreadsheets that you can create, but I think with AI and with ChatGPT and things like that, it makes life so much easier. I think Joy was talking about like there is like an option where you can create your own like you can have like your own software kind of thing, like your own app where you can upload your financials and like you can tell it what you want. So there's so much technology coming out there that could be more cost effective than the packaged things that are out there for doing things like this. But a quick look at a T12 would really kind of point it out, like for you if you're looking at it on a monthly basis. And like it's gonna stand out. And once you're looking at your reports regularly, like you now know, like it's like automatic. You kind of know what to expect, and the moment it's not what you expect, you're like, hey, what happened? But if you're not
And
looking
right
at,
now I get emails too, like from the water, like I get all the emails like, hey, your bill is this month. So like that's how I'm also able to flag it. But you know,
so back to the main question. So you guys answer really good answers to why your bookkeeping sucks, but I think there's more to it. It's a little bit more deep, and really why most bookkeeping sucks is because they've never been taught why their books matter, so they don't use them to actually guide their business. So a lot of people they have bookkeeping, but they're not utilizing it. And so you've made the great step of getting into the bookkeeping, but then you have to use it. And that's why you hate it. You hate it because you don't know what to do with it. You're like, okay, I just spent $300 getting my books done. So what? Like, what's next, right? Isn't that how some of your clients feel, Sarah?
yeah, they like I could even sit there and say, all right, we saved, or we found this much in expenses. Like when they incorrectly categorize their mortgage payment and they don't pull out the interest expense and they have, high interest like from the hard money lenders and stuff like that, they miss out on, or not hundreds, but sometimes tens of thousands of dollars because they don't pull those out and they don't see that value. And like you just save like so much on taxes because we didn't miss this and they were going to send it to their their tax preparer like that. And a lot of times tax preparers are so overworked and overburdened, especially around this time of year when everybody's pushing their stuff to them, to get filed in the next 9 days from the extension. I know my inbox is blowing up right now. I can't imagine being a tax preparer this late in the game. And that's when so many things get missed when you wait till the last minute and do all this. And I think yeah, I think being prepared and understanding the value that looking at it monthly, you know I've seen people, I'm in their books. I know how much they paid for that coach. I've seen them spend 40, 50 grand a year on a coach to help them learn how to buy houses, but they won't spend $500 a month on, they gripe about $500 a month. What is this? And they've been burned by prior bookkeepers, and I get that. I feel like there needs to be more education on there, how to vet a good bookkeeper and how to be a good client. You still, even though you outsource your bookkeeping, you still need to be familiar with it to learn how to make sure you're getting your money's worth. Because there are some rogue bookkeepers out there that just like, oh, hey, I heard bookkeeping businesses make a lot of money. We don't, by the way, but anyways, there are people out there that try to sell courses saying that, oh, you can make $1 million a year in a bookkeeping business, and not have to do anything. You can hire bookkeepers and all this other stuff. And there are people out there that do that and they, don't have quite an education and they do give the rest of us a bad rap. But I think education on both sides of it helps, make that value go further.
Yeah. So how do you fix it? And really, it's by understanding that your books can really provide a roadmap for your business. Like people are like, well, I don't know how doing bookkeeping is going to help me retire from my job, right? It does. It does because what happens is a lot of people don't know how much the money their business is making, right? They think they know. They're like, I could ask someone and they're going to be, I make $3,000 a month, right? um, or I made 2,000. I don't know. But when you really look at it, when they really, bro, they're like, well, I don't see the cash in my account. I feel like I'm supposed to make that, but I don't really know. So really knowing how much you're making a month is really how you can make your path to retirement. If your goal is to retire through real estate, how do you do that without knowing how much you're making, right? It's impossible, in my opinion, for it to be done correctly because rental properties, they are so up and down, right? And you can't just decide based on 1 month you had, this 1 month I made $5,000. Okay, I'm going to retire. That's really not how it works, right? Because you have months where you're great and you have zero maintenance expenses, and then you have months where it kills you. So looking at a trailing, looking at a report going from a year back and really analyzing, okay, this is how much I'm actually making on a yearly basis, is really how you're able to make decisions on your FI plan. And believe it or not, that is like bookkeeping is going to help you in many other ways than just even in your personal life. And so that is how being so anal with bookkeeping is really what helped me say, you know what, I'm ready to make this jump, right? And here's the plan. And so when you understand what the numbers are telling you, because the numbers are actually telling you something, then you can start growing your business, you can start scaling, you can start moving on and doing things differently. You can find out that, let's say, Joy, you do Airbnb, you do Pet Split, you do a couple of different business types, right? But let's say you're really trying to scale because you want to do something specific, you got to look at your business and be like, okay, the long-term rentals, this is how they're performing. My short-term rentals, here are how they're performing. What do I need to do more of so that I can get to my next goal, right? And what is it that I'm doing better on this property versus this property so that I can get there? And so really, when you understand and compare and kind of use it to grow, that is how you're able to scale and get to your financial goals at the end of the day. What else do you want to say, Sarah?
I was just thinking, we talk about water leaks, like we were earlier. I think a big thing is how would you call a plumber to fix a water leak? You would call an accountant to fix a money leak and help you find the money leak. And I think that's a good analogy. And I literally had a plumber come to me 3 or 4 years ago, and he would not come inside my house. He was local to me. He would not come into my house. He was smoking a cigarette. He was stressed, literally used the cigarette to light another cigarette. And he's like, I got all these IRS letters. I don't know what to do. And he like would not put the cigarette down far enough. And I was like, why are you so stressed out? And he was like, I don't know what to do about this. And I was like, if I called you right now and said my house was flooded and water was spurting out of the walls, would you just sit there like nervous and smoking a cigarette, or would you like go to action and fix it? And he's like, I would go to action and fix it. And I was like, you know enough about plumbing to do that. I know enough about accounting to stop the bleeding and help you. And we made one call that day, and it was a minor thing. It wasn't even a big thing. But yeah, we got it done. And I think that a lot of people have a hard time paying an accountant to help them fix it because they should be able to do it. But our eyes have been trained on, the numbers and the books and the reports for so long that we have a lot of experience, and we can get there faster and help you um make those recognizations sooner and get it all there.
Yeah, and like you don't have to like, I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't have money to start paying for bookkeeping. Well, don't have to hire an accountant to do your monthly books for you to like just have a consultation and have somebody look at your books and give you insights, right? Like just like you would hire a real estate coach, because all of you, I know most of you would on a heartbeat hire a real estate coach to look at your stuff, at your portfolio, and see how you can scale your portfolio. It's the same thing with your books. Like you could just hire somebody and be like, hey, I don't have money to pay for a monthly bookkeeper, but I want you to take a look at my books and see how I can make them better. How can I set this up easier? Like, what can I do to get through this? And yes, we're going to talk about how to vet bookkeepers in a minute, but you can have like somebody kind of just advise you on like, hey, these are the next steps that we can take. And then you take it from there. Sarah did like a DIY bookkeeping course, and it's not for you to become a bookkeeper at all means. It's to teach you how to look at like how to do some of the detail stuff and the nuances. So like you would buy a real estate course, but a lot of people wouldn't buy a bookkeeping course. And so because why? But going back to the issue, a lot of people don't realize the value that it takes. So I'm curious. Um, do you guys feel like you see the value in bookkeeping if done correctly and somebody taught you how to like do the different things, or you guys still think that bookkeeping sucks um and you guys want nothing to do with it? So, and then, there's so much to like, we're going to be running out of time in 10 minutes. So there's so much to this that we can't really kind of go in one call, which is why we decided to do a series. And because you guys are asking about betting bookkeepers, and I think we could probably go for 30 minutes talking about betting bookkeepers, right, Sarah?
Yeah.
And then probably some of you want to see QuickBooks, some of you want to see how to analyze books and how to run reports, and those also can go like a long time. So let's kind of go through some Q&A questions, and we'll try to answer as much as we can in the next 10 minutes.
I wanted to add on to something right quick, Kat.
Yeah,
You were
yeah.
talking about how, you don't have enough money for a monthly accounting. A lot of bookkeepers, including myself, and you can ask, any of them out there. A lot of them have something called a diagnostic review, and it's a part of their sales process. Like, hey, do this, and it's how they add value and everything. But just ask a bookkeeper if they have a diagnostic review where they can go in, look at your books, and they'll give you a rundown of what all they see, errors they see, what all, inconsistencies you may have. And they can look at that, whether you're in QuickBooks, um, if you're not in a program where you can give accountants access, like Baseline or Stetsa sometimes, they can do a Zoom where you share screen and they can go in and analyze it with you and go through it. Um, but yeah, if you're ever needing something like that, um, you can hit me up on Instagram and I'll connect with you on it.
All right, questions. Don't be shy because I know you guys have questions.
Any questions?
I have a number of my properties that are with third-party managers, and those I just get, monthly and then ultimately annual statements. So they're effectively doing the bookkeeping. But then if I want to consolidate those into my picture in QuickBooks or wherever, I would need to do journal entries, right?
Um, Usually when you get the money into your bank account, it would be linked into QuickBooks. And then on QuickBooks, you can split the transaction.
Right. So there's an owner distribution, but then I'll need to kind of square that distribution up with the underlying transactions which took place out of my accounting orbit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's the part I've been dreading.
I have four property managers for my different portfolios. So there's four entries and they suck because yes, they're longer. Um, how do you handle those, Sarah, usually?
Um, the property management reports.
Yeah, the entries,
Oh,
the
the entries for
disbursements.
those. Well, it depends on how detailed they want it. There are some people that well, first of all, let's talk about the technical aspect of it. You're going to get a 1099 from them at the end of the year. So your income, you have to record your income on what that 1099 is going to be, and it's usually the rent. And you have to deduct all the stuff from there. But it just depends on how down to the neat detail you want it. Some of my clients are fine with just income, and then all expenses are just lumped into one category. Um, and some people want all the maintenance in one, all the repairs in one, any other, things that come up. Some people have the property manager like actually pay their mortgage for them, and we have to do all that, or the insurance, and they want it, all detailed out. So it kind of depends on your preference.
Yeah, I'm one of those detail clients. I'm like, give me all the details.
Yeah. Monica asked a question about vetting an accountant or a bookkeeper, and I was grabbing my book and I cannot find it right here. But Monica, I'll hit me up on Instagram and I'll take a picture of it and send it to you. Tax Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright, which is Robert Kiyosaki's. He has a really, really good list of how to vet a CPA tax preparer. And I think there are some good questions in there to do that. But Kat and I need to come up with a list for real estate investors too. Like for real estate investors specifically looking for a bookkeeper. I think that'd be a great list to come up with.
Yeah, I actually have one. I'll find it. I did
I've
a
yeah, I think I've done a simple one before, but yeah, we could
Yeah, well, if once
collaborate.
we'll look for it, and what we'll do is we're gonna be sending the recording to everyone, so we can we can send it as an attachment to that.
Yeah. Everyone sells property analysis tools. Where's the rehab tracker or the purchase holding rehab income tool, Excel or Canva? Um, I there's so you can like for rehab and stuff, I think a lot of people use Smart Sheets, which is just kind of an expensive software. I know that's what Tarly Arbor uses and teaches to his flipping anonymous students and all that. And I think there's several other flippers that use the Smart Sheets. It's basically just like a beefed up Excel spreadsheet on steroids. You can build your own, but yeah.
I use QuickBooks. That's how I track my rehab. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen me posting when I'm doing when I'm doing like when I was doing my new build. I was literally just tracking everything on my balance sheet because that's kind of where flips and stuff go. And I have a budget, right? I create a budget and it says how much I'm supposed to spend. And then QuickBooks really kind of goes into, I categorize everything very detailed. And it really kind of tells me like, because I'm tracking the interest when I'm paying interest it's coming out of my cash account, right? I have accounts called holding costs. I have accounts called rehab costs, and then I break them down by the individual. So QuickBooks does all that for me. I don't need a separate rehab tracker because at the end of the day, it needs to go to QuickBooks because that's how I'm going to provide the reports at the end of the year. So I'd say like if you have QuickBooks, like you should be able to use that to track your expenses and all that stuff.
I think QuickBooks gets has a bad reputation because it's not the easiest to set up and you just can't most people don't have the accounting mindset to just go in and use it. But I think with just a little bit of education, especially now that they have the app on the phone and some easier ways to just like get in the habit of doing things. Um, but yeah, it's I think QuickBooks is a great tool. But just a plain old spreadsheet and just do it like on Google Sheets, you can do the drop down, you can easily do drop downs in that and just add kind of your categories where you want to track would be a good free one.
Yeah,
Maybe we should make one, a good free Google Sheet for rehab tracking.
yeah. You guys are so before we head out, so what everybody put on the chat, what do you think we should deep dive on the next call?
Yeah, I've screenshot a lot of the chat here for us, Kat, so we can kind of maybe start doing some polls on Instagram and seeing where everybody's would get the most benefit out of. Um, but yeah, it'd be nice to know what's needed most out in the real estate world.
Not all at once. I think they're all tired by now. See, this is why a bookkeeping call is to be an hour and that's it. Being able to track holding interest would be great on a sheet or and to discuss.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think the vetting a bookkeeper would be great. I mean, there's lots out there. It's like once you go down that road, you get a little locked in and
You do. And I will
switching
be the
costs
first.
and all that.
I will be the first to say I probably have two clients that would tell you that I'm the worst bookkeeper ever. But on both sides of it, we didn't do our due diligence. I didn't realize that like we just didn't click as a team. And I was just like, oh, I need more clients. I need more clients. And I started accepting clients. And so, I mean, I don't get worried about them saying that I'm a terrible bookkeeper. It was more of a personality and kind of a goals and like in game process and everything. But it did help me learn like how to vet my clients a little bit more. And I have more detailed, kind of analysis when we have the sales call if this is going to be a good relationship or not. And um so yeah, there it can go two ways too. Yeah. But I 100% believe you should interview at least 4 or 5 bookkeepers. There's so many out there right now. I would interview as many as I could. Um but yeah, we'll definitely deep dive on it. But if anybody needs somebody right quick and they can't wait any longer, I think the best way would be to interview as many bookkeepers as possible until you kind of see what you like out of one or not.
Yeah. Could probably do like how to vet a bookkeeper, how to work with one, because people don't know how to work with a bookkeeper. So they hire a bookkeeper and they're like, great, now what do I do? Like I'm supposed to give all this information. How do I even do that? And then they get overwhelmed and then they kick the can down a couple months because they're like, Sarah, I don't have time to give you my stuff. Uh,
Exactly.
or Sarah sends them reports and crickets, and then they just reach out to Sarah at, in April and be like, what is it that you provided me with? Like, what is this? And so I think that also learning how to work with a bookkeeper is important.
Yeah. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Me here, learning about how and where to hire a bookkeeper slash VAs would be helpful. And I think the mention of VAs here is helpful too, because a lot of times you don't need a bookkeeper. You maybe just need a VA to help you organize your receipts and organize, especially if you have a lot of transactions like a fix and hold, fix and flip, or a short-term rental. A lot of times you just need a VA to help you organize what property those go to and put them in a Google Drive and help arranging that stuff. But yeah, that's a good deep dive too. And how to vet a bookkeeper, but also when should you hire a bookkeeper versus a VA to help you out, keep you organized.
Sarah, Monica just asked a question. So she's saying, if you're not a state bookkeeper and in different states, where do you look for a bookkeeper? Google in the market where the most property values are.
Monica, I am in a very, very small town in southern Oklahoma, and I have investors from Washington, California to Virginia, and I just signed somebody in New York. So I'm all over the place. Um, a tax preparer is kind of a different, you have to make sure, and most of them can file in all 50 states now. But bookkeepers are pretty universal in or not but pretty in the United States. They're pretty, they can go over different states and everything. The only thing that you would get into is if you have an STR and you have to pay like local taxes or state taxes on the uses of those. I think that's where I'd probably get a local to that area bookkeeper. But if you're not paying taxes on the STRs or kind of anything like that, then I think you can anywhere in the United States, it would be fine.
Yeah, I don't think that you have to restrict yourself geographically, like to one specific area, like especially like Miami, like New York. They're gonna be more expensive sometimes than if you found somebody online. Is
In
that I
rural
think
Oklahoma.
yeah, like you want somebody that you can click with, that you can relate to. Like the who can you work with this person is really the answer that you need to be like looking for. Like because not every bookkeeper is going to be made the same. Like how much information do they give you? There's bookkeepers that will just categorize your transactions and be like, okay, bye. You want somebody that educates you, somebody that will actually work with you and be a partner in your business, part of your team. And so you have to make sure that you kind of find that when you're looking for a bookkeeper. So I wouldn't be restricting yourself too much to location unless there's something specific of your business and the stuff that you're doing that needs to be local. All right, hope you guys found this helpful. Um, hopefully we'll see you on the next one. And if you have any questions in the meantime or things that you want to provide feedback on for our future calls, just email us, Instagram me, whatever. We'll definitely take into consideration for our webinar series, and we'll do some freebies for you guys also.
Thank you both.
This has been a lot of fun. I'm so excited about this now. I'm like, yes, let's do more. Let's do more.
Thanks
Bye.
for
Have a
doing
great
this.
day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.